Yeah, it is another episode of the Auto Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun tonight, as best we can. The Raiders, home opener, opening up Allegiant Stadium, 2023. Traditional rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming into town. I was in Vegas this morning and all weekend. Saw a pretty decent number of Steelers jerseys. Saw way more Raiders jerseys, which made me happy. But it definitely felt like a Steelers home game. Raiders get their dicks kicked in by the worst offense in football. 23-18. And honestly, Soto, it didn't feel that close. We got lucky with some really weird, crappy penalties.
Yeah,
some the game.
I think
it turned into a one-score game that felt much worse than what it was.
Even when it was a one-score game, it didn't feel that close. Mm-hmm. That last penalty on Minkah Fitzpatrick, just the fact that Jimmy G's helmet bobbed a little bit, that's what caused the flag. I mean, was it forcible contact? Not really. Would I take it? Will I take it? Yeah, of course I'll take it. But yeah, it was just more of the same, man. These guys aren't getting any better.
And one of the few teams get shafted by the referees more than the Raiders, and so when we get a couple going our way, I don't cry for the opponents. But this was,
we had two PIs in 2 weeks pulled back. 2 PIs that were thrown that were picked up in 2 weeks. So I'll take this.
I'll take it. But I have not heard of that penalty that we got on that.
What, helmet to helmet?
No, not the helmet to helmet in the fourth quarter.
Oh, that was no. You can't launch off of a defender. You can't push off a defender.
Leverage.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Really? No,
I've never heard of leverage.
I've heard that.
I might have seen it and just kind of forgot about it. But when they said penalty leverage, I was all, oh, they're making up penalties. They're getting creative. They're pulling an old bag of tricks because it's prime time. They're pushing for overtime to get some extra ad space for NBC. That's what I thought. Never heard of it before. I don't doubt it exists. I'd never heard of it before. I don't know where to begin.
You want to begin with the obvious?
Well, I mean, is the obvious Josh McDaniels and kicking that field goal weirdly when you're down 8 with minutes left and you're like, oh yeah, you know what I want to do? Put the game in the hands of my defense. I have Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, one of the best pass blocking offensive lines in football. No, let's kick the 3 when we're down by 8 with just minutes to go and put it in the hands of our defense.
It doesn't make sense. We know if you have a bad defense, okay, a defense that's been known to perform poorly, and they've gotten a couple of stops in a row. Yeah. It's not sustainable. It just isn't. That's not who they are. And to rely on somebody to rely on the side of the ball that's so unreliable when you're the offensive-minded coach, when you have your players in there, you have a great wide receiver, you have a really good wide receiver number 2. Mm-hmm. You drafted high a tight end, you signed a free agent. These are all people that you wanted, that you brought in.
Yeah.
And you're leaving it up to your defense to this is not, and this is what I've been saying for a long time. This is what I said last year when we lost a bunch of games late. Our offense has to lead this team. Mm-hmm. If we're relying on our defense to win games, we're not going to win those games. It's just not going to happen. And it happened again tonight. It just doesn't make sense. At least go out on your sword, At least go down swinging. With what brought you there.
It's not even metaphorical. Just mathematically. What's the best chance to win? You're down by 8 with just minutes left in the game. You can score 8 points.
Touchdown no matter what. You need a touchdown no matter what.
Either way.
Might as well get it now.
And that's where it's starting to feel like Josh McDaniels is playing keep my job. He can go to the post game presser and be like, oh, it was down to the wire. We were 1 score away. It was so close, one thing, one way, one. It's dude, fuck right off.
That's not the case.
You had the W right there.
Look, if you want to keep your job, because these jobs in the NFL, they're like commission salespeople jobs. All right. They're not safe. You don't have a salary and then you get paid. You have to go out there and you have to perform. And to perform, you have to make things happen. You have to get the job done yourself.
Well, you do have buyouts in your contract. They are, unfortunately, they're pretty safe. Like Josh McDaniels is going to be rich no matter how bad he coaches. Unfortunately,
he's coached so long in the NFL. He's already rich. He's already a rich man. He was the highest paid coordinator in the league. The last few years, he was a coordinator.
He got called off of a plane to Indy and was like, "All right, here's another mill. Come back.
Here's another." It's his thinking is of a defeated man.
Mm-hmm.
And what I said in the offseason and what I said after the Buffalo game is the same thing I'm saying now. You can't keep getting embarrassed and think you're going to keep your job.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when, look, the excuses are all gone. Like, you can say all you want. Well, it's going to take Jimmy G missed a lot of time in the offseason, blah, blah, blah. Well, you knew he was hurt when you signed him. You knew Tyree was hurt when you drafted him.
Yeah.
You didn't get the JJ contract done in time. So you can't really use, maybe the first game or so, okay, whatever, but to not get better. That's what really is causing me to like really come down on Josh McDaniels, is to not get better over the course of these 3 games is the real problem. Not playing your best in the beginning because you missed time. Okay, that's understandable. I get that. But to not get better, to put this performance out there at home, I know Mark Davis is not pleased with what's going on. I know he's upset. What I don't know is what his level of patience is, and what I don't know is the theme of the conversation he's having with Josh McDaniels, because he meets with him after every game.
It might be high. The Aces just won their semifinal game. He might not be talking to him. Like, that's what's crazy, is Mark Davis like genuinely loves his WNBA team. It's so weird. It's like, great. Enjoy your WNBA wins, Mark Davis. Your NFL franchise. I'm choking like the Raiders. your NFL franchise, like the diamond gem of American sports, and one of the most storied franchises in the most storied league of sports, is grossly underperforming. New stadium, fan base going nuts. You're making money hand over fist. That stadium was full. Those tickets are going for $800 a pop. I guess I answered my own question. Why does Mark Davis give a fuck? His WNBA team's winning, and he's making a ton of money. Swear jar. That's $2. Why does he care? Why does Mark Davis care? He's making money hand over fist, and his chick basketball team is winning. I guess they have trophies in that sport. I don't know.
I think he does care more about the Raiders than he does whatever the fuck they're called. That's the one for me.
2-1.
It just, they're actually winning. It could be how it's like you being excited about your fantasy football team. In the grand scheme of things, you make a couple of bucks here and there, but who really gives a crap?
I'm 3-0 in both my fantasy football teams, and yet I'm still like football depressed because the Raiders are winning.
And I'm sure Mark Davis is owner depressed because this is his bread and butter, and it honestly doesn't make sense trotting out the same thing over and over again. Like I said in the last show, we have to stop thinking in terms of starter backup. We have to start thinking in terms of execute, not execute.
I think it's way deeper than that. I think you're right. You're right, Soto. But I think it's way deeper than that. Mateo83, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate it. I feel like it's charity. It's like,
look, you just
we're all in this together.
Hang on a second.
Like we're playing the violin in a subway as a homeless guy, and you're giving us $2 because we're all in the same boat.
That game was bullshit. Okay, that's 2 for me. Mateo just paid for my 2.
We're at 4 now. We're at 4 in the swear jar. Mateo83, thank you so much for the super chat. Very, very much appreciated. The Raiders don't deserve us. Yeah, man. It's been that way for a long time. One of the most devoted fan bases in football. Like, it's so easy. It's so easy for the Patriots and the Rams or the University of Georgia or Clemson or the Warriors to have like a devoted fan base. It's like, oh, we're so passionate. Oh, we show up. Oh, we're so there. Like, yeah, because y'all win all the time. Because y'all are, the fan base is handed layups and spoon fed constantly. Championships. Yeah, it's easy to show up in that situation. It must be nice. My coworkers in Vegas, like, you know, they became Knights fans because the Knights moved in there. All their kids, diehard Knights fans. Because the first year they were there, they went to the Stanley Cup, and then they won the cup. They're just like, yeah, like,
and then they're in the playoffs almost every year.
And they're like, yeah, we're so into the Knights. This is the best. Oh, we bleed whatever their damn colors are. It's like, yeah, I would hope so. It's all you had for a while till the Raiders were there. All you guys did was win.
Yep.
Yeah, like I would hope so. I would hope so. Raiders fans, we're sticking around. We're sticking around through this garbage. We deserve better.
My opinion. I said Jimmy G blows. Believe me now. Well, you were saying it with when he didn't blow. You said it while he was still like having good stats and winning games. So I guess
look, I think my opinion deserves credit. If you call something and you're like, look, I know what the stats say, but I still think in the future he's not going to do well, he deserves credit.
But
and vice versa. You deserve credit. It's like, look, I see the stats and I think it's a lie. My analytical eye says this.
I don't think that it was really that deep.
You absolutely deserve credit if you call something like this.
I could call whatever I want and just say, just because it happens, then I get credit for it, even if I just
call it correctly. Yes,
even if I pull it out of my ass. It's not a bet. Well, here's the problem with that, RJ, is he's not putting anything on the line. He's not losing anything if it doesn't turn out. Now,
the stakes are lower, but you still get credit if you call it.
Whatsoever. There's no stakes whatsoever if that opinion is wrong. He loses nothing because no one's going to go back and say, hey, you see, Jimmy G was really good. So that
I feel like we do. I feel like there's enough.
No.
We're a tight enough community where we hold each other accountable.
We don't do that. Prime example. RJ was shitting all over Josh McDaniels for one of his calls. He made a really good call that got us a touchdown.
Which call?
The one when we lined up heavy for run and it gave davante a single coverage and we threw the ball to him and got it with
the slant. It was a lot. Where they motioned the other way and hit the slant.
Yeah, the one.
No, I immediately texted. Great play call.
You did.
Okay. Oh, okay.
RJ did. I mean, Rory did it. That's what I'm saying is. You know, people will say
that was a sick play call. Like that's that's what
play call.
So when Josh McDaniels came to the Raiders, like that's what I thought we'd be getting 20 times a game. Like sick, like dude, it was so sweet, dude. It was 3rd and 1. Everyone's thinking run, everyone's thinking quarterback sweep, quarterback sneak. They shift to the right and just throw a beautiful slant to Davante. That's how you get single coverage on Davante, is when you get them all thinking quarterback sneak. Beautiful play. That's what I thought we were going to get with Josh McDaniels. I thought I was going to like 15 to 17 times a game. I thought I would get my skirt blown all the way up with like sick play calls like that. And again, he's still Josh McDaniels. Like he is still an offensive minded guru with stuff like that. But it's just all buried behind poor game management, poor locker room etiquette, poor like basically everything else. Like it's just falling apart in that way.
Yeah. So let me look. You kind of cut me off when I was trying to make my point.
Sorry, I did. I'll shut up. I'm going to keep drinking because that's all you can do in this situation.
Go ahead. Look, the problem that I have with stuff like that.
Guess what I'm drinking?
I have no clue.
Vodka. Sorry, continue. I promise not to cut you off anymore. I did it twice.
Honestly, it doesn't really matter anyway. It really doesn't because, I mean, none of the listeners give a shit because all they're going to do is say what they want to say and say, I was right, because everyone is so focused on being right. So if more negative things happen than positive in football anyway, you can always pick out negative things to happen because you don't score on every single play. Right? So everybody go ahead.
Well, I think if you win, everything's forgiven, more or less.
Not
right?
really,
Like,
because we won
much.
game. We won first game, and people were still shit talking.
Well, it was mostly positive, but I think
No, was it?
It wasn't. Look, is it shit talking or is it all right? We beat a terrible team. I'm concerned.
We didn't know they were
forward.
terrible. We didn't know we didn't know their defense was that bad.
You're not giving credit to people who saw what was happening and saying, "Look, I'm concerned."
Guys,
you need to give credit to people that said that.
You're using two different points in time to make the same reference and to make the same point. At the time, they were shitting on us only scoring 17 points against the Broncos. They had not yet given up 33 against, or 35, I guess, against Washington and 150 against the Dolphins. They were still a defense that was pretty good last year, and we beat them. So let's not look back.
Doesn't that give them more credit?
I knew the next 2 weeks they were going to give up over 100 points.
Well,
we didn't know that.
Then obviously they did, because they're like, look, we beat a bad team and scored not enough points against a terrible team. Like, they deserve credit for that call because they were correct. Like, it's okay to see that they're not playing well.
You only deserve credit if you put something on the line. If you pull something out with nothing behind it,
I give our listeners more credit than that. Like, you don't, like, look, if you're in the comment section of our videos,
it's not about the listeners or anything. It's about anybody who just says something just to say it, where they have nothing to lose if it goes wrong. They don't get credit if it goes right.
What do we have to lose if it goes wrong? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, that's what we're doing here. It's like we're having a conversation and talking about the sport and talking about the game and talking about the team. I don't understand where we're going here. Like,
okay, well then let's move on then.
Where do you want to start?
I don't want to start anywhere. I want to get this done as fast as possible.
No, there's a lot to unpack.
Well, then let's get it done as fast as we can.
We're not getting out of here. We're not
as fast as
we need to unpack this.
We can unpack it as fast as possible. That'd be great.
King 85, great super chat. We really appreciate you. Thank you. It's time to rip it all the way down. Mark is in a unique, I'm assuming Mark Davis is in a unique situation where he doesn't have to worry about ticket sales. That is so true. We could be 17-0 and 0-17, and the ticket sales are going to be the same. It's such a unique situation. He's going to sell it regardless, but all this rebuilding on the fly ain't it. I wouldn't say the last rebuild was on the fly. It was very orchestrated. It's like, not only are we getting a new head coach, we're getting a new head coach and GM that know each other and work together for a while. And we're coming off of a playoff year. Like, it wasn't on the fly. It wasn't even a rebuild. It was neither on the fly nor a rebuild. It was like, we're a playoff team. Let's get what Mark Davis thinks is a winning combination and go win some shit. Swear jar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, he's making money no matter what happens. It doesn't matter, because if his home team doesn't buy the tickets, the away team will. So he's going to sell it every single game.
Are you in the comment section just banning? I love it.
Oh yeah,
just slashing and killing. I've never seen you do this before. You must be really pissed.
Yeah, I'm really pissed.
Never seen you go in the comment section start banning.
Earlier today with all your guys' bullshit, I've been pissed off all day.
Swear jar.
I've been pissed all day.
What are we at? 2 and 3? Me 2, you 3? 3 and 3?
Yeah.
3 and 3. $6. Eventually at a show, we're going to do like a swear jar poll question. Like, what are we going to do with all the money? It's going to be a lot if the season keeps going like this. Let's start with Kenny Pickett, quarterback for the Steelers. He's a terrible quarterback.
He's not very good.
On a terrible offense. He is bad at the sport of football. But the Raiders defense, what we're talking about, the slump busters, is like, if you haven't gotten laid in 9 months and you go with that fat chick that's like the secretary of your office, just like, get out of a slump buster. That's the Raiders defense. If you're looking for a slump buster, you throw the football against us. I got the okay. So Kenny Pickett, career stats: 62.6% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 75.5 quarterback rating. All right, that's his career stats. This is what he had against the Raiders: 16 of 28, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 108.5 quarterback rating. He had the first 2 touchdown pass game of his career. It's not against the Raiders. Just atrocious by the defense.
Yeah, man. It's doesn't look good, and it's not getting better.
I do want to give there's one piece of credit I want to give Patrick Graham, and it's probably the only thing, is they were doing some pretty cool stunts with Maxx Crosby. Because like when you line up Maxx Crosby, like, you know, on the left or wherever he may be, it's like, okay, the offensive line can, all right, we're going to chip, we're going to double team, we're going to do whatever. And that's what they mostly did. But Patrick Graham on passing downs was having him stunt, and he'd be like run all the way around the back of the defensive line to the other side and try to give him space, which was brilliant, right? Like you got Maxx Crosby, like when the entire offensive scheme is double or triple team Maxx Crosby and you can do whatever you want, you got to move Maxx around. And so that was a really nice adjustment of Patrick Graham, and it paid off. Like Maxx was able to, like, his stats weren't off the wall, but he was able to be more disruptive because, you know, he's lined up over the left tackle and he's fighting the right guard, right, for a position. So that's probably the most positive thing I can say about Patrick Graham's defense, that they stunted Maxx Crosby pretty well. Like he was able to move around a little bit. It was hard.
Yeah,
it was hard for the Steelers to like put a finger on passing.
Yeah, they even put him on middle linebacker runs.
Mm-hmm. The Illuminor versus TJ Watt, that was the number 1 matchup leading up. They were like, all right, let's pay attention to that. How's it go? He actually held up well, except for the 2 sacks, which is weird. It's like 2 sacks is a lot for any one player, even if it's TJ Watt, like arguably the best defensive player in football, probably the best pass rusher in football. There was a good pocket for Jimmy G String.
He had time. He had time, you know.
Usually a pretty good pocket.
Interesting question here. Boogie's Moolah B. Does AOC make a difference if he plays? Or are we setting him up to fail too early? Or is that the best way to learn? Honestly, it depends on who you are, and it depends on what your philosophy is. If you feel you can protect the quarterback, go ahead and put him in there. And so far, we've been able to protect the quarterback. So I don't see how it would be a negative thing going in, having him go in there and throw 5-6 picks, you know, whatever in 3 games. If he does that, we had that already, right?
Mm.
What we do know that Farva has been there every day, does have the tools to run this offense, has more experience in this version of the Dash McDaniels offense than Jimmy G does, and I don't see how it could hurt us saying, "Look, Jimmy G, you are not performing. You're performing extremely poorly. By the contract that we gave you, you're not our long-term answer. And by your play, you're telling us you're not the short-term answer either." So just like I said about Brandon Staley last week, the sooner you move on, once you get that information, and I said it about our last quarterback too. I said, so I'm not, I didn't just say it one time. I've said it a bunch of times. Finding out who is not the person is just as important as finding the person. Because once you know a person is not that person, you move on. Why stick around with somebody that you know is not going to be the person?
Because that's where the politics of like job security come in, right? Like if Josh McDaniels goes, all right, we're benching our $33 million guaranteed money quarterback for a 4th round rookie, you're waving the white flag. You're telling everyone you're waving the white flag. And if you're Josh McDaniels, you want to keep your job, you want to do that. I'm with you from a football sense. In a sporting context, you're 100% right. Like let's shake things up. Let's try something different. Was the offseason success of Farva fool's gold or real? Let's find out. In a sporting sense, you're 100% correct. But in football, there's politics. In football, there's business. There's no way Josh McDaniels does that. Raider Manny, very generous super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sending
this again. 5 swears for each of you. My man, we can rip some off on the tab of Raider Manny. Love the show. Thank you, Randy. We love you. Difficult game to watch, especially Jimmy with a possible ankle injury. It was weird. It was like I tweeted it out when he had that ankle injury. He was kind of like shuffling off, or like all of Raider Nation, other than you, because you say he's not injury prone. Me and I think most
RJ,
people.
don't fucking pick at me today, man. Don't do
you
that
said,
shit.
What did I? You
RJ,
said he's
don't
not
do
injury
that.
prone.
RJ, please, just do me a huge favor, RJ. Don't do that. Don't do that today.
Don't qualify what you say.
No, don't do that.
What you say matters. You said he's not injury prone.
No. Because you only do that when you feel I'm wrong about something, or when you can throw it in my face about something. Just don't do that today. Just don't be a dick.
How is it throwing in your face when he got hit and wasn't injured?
I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
This
RJ,
proved
please,
your theory
RJ,
more than disproved your theory.
Don't do this. Don't do this, please. Just don't do this. All right?
He doesn't get hurt and you get mad at me for your theory? That doesn't make any sense. Oh my God, he left. It's just you and me and the wall, guys. Soto just bounced. Was I out of line? Because, Soto says that Josh McDaniels, or I'm sorry, Jimmy G isn't injury prone. And he gets tackled, sacked, borderline hurt, and then still plays the game. If anything, that makes Soto more right. And yet he disappears because he's upset. It is a loss. In fairness to Soto, it is a loss that would make me want to leave too. It is brutal. Like, I'm literally just here for you guys. Like, I'm just here to like make sure like we're all in this together. Like, we're on that last lifeboat of the Titanic. I was trying to prove him right. Like, Jimmy G got hit, looked like he was hurt, and I was making the joke that like I literally tweeted out, I was like, do I spend the next 90 minutes of my life making lifelong memories with my 3-year-old, or do I watch Brian Hoyer play football? And I wanted to bring that up, but Soto didn't let me. The possible ankle injury, that looks like it's gone. It looks like he's healthy. He's fine. Not an issue. We're sticking to this together, boys. It's just you and me. I'm going to get to your questions here in 1 sec. There's a couple things I want to get to. Jimmy Garoppolo. He now leads the NFL in interceptions. Let that sink in. He has one of the best pass blocking lines in football. He has all kinds of time. He has a scheme of football that says get the ball out quickly, so you're not under pressure. Just get the ball out. You have one of the best wide receiver corps in football, Davante Adams, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, and one of the best pass catching and pass blocking backs in football in Josh Jacobs. He wasn't that guy his entire career. He has become that. Josh Jacobs has become an incredible pass blocker in the backfield and catcher of the ball out of the backfield. And still, he threw 3 picks today and leads the league in interceptions. He was supposed to be the safety guy. He was supposed to be the efficiency guy. He was supposed to be the no mistakes, dish the ball out to the winners, dish the ball out to the Pro Bowlers guy. And he leads the league in interceptions. I thought that was behind us. Derek Carr was Mr. give the ball away to everyone around. And Jimmy G has somehow eclipsed him. This is awful. And those interceptions, a lot of them were really terrible. The one to Michael Mayer, he had separation. In fairness to Jimmy, there's a little pressure, right? The one to Mayer. There was a little pressure. He steps into the pocket, and Mayer is starting to get separation going across the field. And he like way underthrows it, like throws it way behind Mayer. Interception. Bad interception. The second Jimmy Garoppolo interception was the worst interception of week 3 of the NFL. It was awful. About as ugly as it can get. He had tons of time, clean pocket, sitting there, lobbed it into double coverage, right into the DB's hands. Awful. Just atrocious. And then in the 2-minute drill, he throws a third one. 3 interceptions for Jimmy G string. Really bad. Which is a bummer for a lot of reasons. One, because it's 3 turnovers. But 2, like, there were a lot of plays. I would say the majority of Jimmy G's play was actually pretty good. Like, when he was under pressure, he was moving in the pocket really well, stepping up in the pocket, hitting Davante Adams. We'll get to Davante in a second. Like, he was generally playing well. And when I talked to my 49ers friends about Jimmy Garoppolo, because, like, we all know who Jimmy G is. We all seen him play, right? Like, he's in Super Bowls and NFC championships and playoffs and playing for premier organizations. Like, if you watch football, you more or less know Jimmy G's game, but you don't really know a quarterback until you talk to his fan base, right? And when I talk to Jimmy G fans, like when I talk to 49er fans, and I live in California, so I know a lot. I know a lot of 49er fans. When I talk to 49er fans, they're like, look, he's going to give you 2 or 3 face palm, oh my God, what did you do type plays every game. And I heard it with my brain, but I didn't process it with my heart. I didn't like fully absorb what that meant. And so, like, in game 1, when he threw 1 pick in the red zone, I was like, oh wow, it was 1 screw up. He screwed up 1 time. That's apparently Jimmy G screws up multiple times a game, and it's awful, and you're always face palming yourself. And then in week 2, and then in week 3, especially this week, you really saw what they're talking about. It was just atrocious interceptions. And I know you can't say, like, look, take away the 3 interceptions and it was a good game. But if you take away the 3 interceptions, it was a good game. Like, he was moving around the pocket well. Like, he was finding Davante Adams. Like, look, if your game plan is Davante is going to be in 50-50 ball situations, feed him no matter what, you can win that way. It's Davante freaking Adams. You can do that. And that was the game plan. But we had 2.5, oh my God, what the hell am I watching interceptions by Jimmy Garoppolo. And that loses you games. We talked Kenny Pickett. We talked Jimmy G. We talked Illuminor versus TJ Watt. Gave up 2 sacks. A little positivity. How about a little positivity? Divine Diablo. Is there a more improved player on the Raiders roster than Divine Diablo? He's playing great. Controlling the edge, rushing the passer. He led the team in tackles with 8, 4 solo. He's playing fantastic. He's playing so well. That's the end of the positivity hour. No, I lied. Davante Adams is open every single play. Every single play. Davante Adams is open. If it's a 50-50 ball, you throw it to Davante Adams. He's just that good. Davante, 13 receptions, 20 targets. 20 targets. Jimmy Garoppolo only threw the ball 28 times. 20 targets on 28 attempts, which I understand. Do it. 13 receptions, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's not human. He is a mutant. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. Thank God he's a Raider. Like, where would we be without him? Where would we be if Davante Adams wasn't like, oh, I don't know where my quarterback in Green Bay is going to go. Let me go play with my college buddy and then just stick around there after he's gone. Like, where would we be without Davante Adams? I'd never really appreciated Davante until he was a Raider. Like, I obviously had seen him play. I'd seen him play for Green Bay, and, we saw Aaron Rodgers throw touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, first down after first down after first down with him. But until I watched like every single snap that he played in a season, did I really get what he is, what he's capable of, and how we're wasting the prime of one of the best wide receivers in football, if not the best wide receiver in football right now. It's so bonkers how good he is. So Josh McDaniels, we can talk about the general overall crappiness. Almost cost me another $1 there in the swear jar. The overall crappiness of the season, right? 1-2, losing to a bad team, getting blown out by a good team. But how about being down by 8 with 4 minutes left? We kick a field goal, which was dumb to begin with. And then a penalty I've never heard of, leverage, actually made the situation worse because we kicked the field goal later with less time, right? Like, we're down by 8. We should be going for a touchdown. We're within striking distance. We have Davante Adams and a fantastic pass blocking line. Not to mention Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow. Josh Jacobs is a beast out of the backfield this year and last year. He's actually really good out of the backfield this year. Like, it's because his rushing numbers are so terrible, we're kind of like, we're overlooking how good he's been out of the backfield this year catching. Really good. All these weapons. And we're like, no, we're going to put it in the hands of our defense. Our world-class defense. What a terrible decision. And then, even though we kicked the field goal, he should have declined the penalty and said, all right, I'd rather have 4 minutes to try to stop your offense and then get our offense on the field as opposed to 2 minutes. So instead we have like seconds left and Jimmy G throws a pick. Josh McDaniels is, I can understand a head coach having strengths and weaknesses, right? If you're going to be a not man's man, if you're not going to be a rah-rah coach, if you're not going to be a leader of men, then you better not screw up the technical part of the game. Then you better get the numbers exactly right. Your strategy better be perfect. Your X and O's better be immaculate. Your game management, clock management better be through the roof. If you're going to let that part of football, which is a very, very important part of football, go to the wayside. Like, I'm not going to be a leader of men. I'm just going to be a computer with a clipboard. If you can't even get the computer with a clipboard part, if you can't even get that part right, then what are we doing here? The things you were brought in as your strength, you can't pull off, then why are you here? It was really bad. Another really, really sad development is the Steelers coming into today had given up 5.6 yards per carry. Tied for second worst in the NFL. Tied for second worst defensively yards per carry. 5.6. Atrocious run defense. Arguably the worst run defense in football. And we came in with the NFL rushing leader, Josh Jacobs. And this isn't a knock on Jacobs. Could he have played a little better? Sure, right? I'm sure he's going to go watch the tape and kind of kick himself for things he didn't do right. That's certainly a possibility. But it was mostly on the O-line. Josh Jacobs carried the ball 17 times for 62 yards at 3.6 yards per carry. The Steelers were giving up 5.6 coming into tonight. And then with an offensive guru, Josh McDaniels, and the NFL rushing leader, Josh Jacobs, ran for 2 yards per carry less than what they were giving up. That's really bad. A couple individual performances. Marcus Peters, he had a bunch of great tackles in the open field, which I want to give him credit for. He was a really good tackler today, but he was so bad in the first quarter. He was the one that got smoked by Kenny Pickett on that bomb. That was the long, get this, guys. Get this, Raider Nation. That Kenny Pickett bomb over Marcus Peters was the longest touchdown pass by the Steelers over the Raiders since the immaculate reception. Let that sink in. Kenny friggin' Pickett just beat the immaculate reception for touchdown bombs. Just let that seep into your skin and poison your soul for a minute, because we all deserve that right now. Let's just wallow in that pain. Kenny Pickett. And then also Marcus Peters dropped that gift of a pick six. Like there's dropping of interceptions where it's always weird, right? So like if I'm a corner and I make a great play, right? Like I break on the wide receiver and it should be an interception, but I still stopped the completion. It was a pass breakup and I'm mad. Like it's like, all right, it's weird because yes, you dropped the interception, but it was a pass breakup. Like you made a great play and stopped the completion. So it's a net win, right? This was a gift. This ball was going nowhere. This ball was nowhere in the vicinity of the wide receiver. Like it was a miscommunication between Pickett and the wide receiver. The receiver was going left. The ball went right. And Marcus Peters was right there. And was just like, blah. Bounced off his chest into no man's land. The Raiders are the only team through week 3 without a takeaway. This defense cannot take the ball away to save its life. Last year, it was the worst in football, and it's trending to be worse than last year. One of the most important aspects of football, of all the metrics, of all the stats that decide wins or losses in a football game, obviously, clearly the number one is wins or points, right? Like that's, who has more points, that wins. Number 2, by a mile. It's not yards per game. It's not sacks. It's not time of possession. By a mile. The number one stat that decides if you win or lose football games is turnover ratio. Are you taking the ball away more times than you're giving it away? That's number 1. It beats everything else by a mile. And in 3 games, the Raiders don't have a single takeaway. Not one forced fumble, not one fumble recovery, not one interception. Think you're going to win that way? Think that's how you get W's? I don't know where to go next. Davante, JMD. A lot of Steelers in the crowd today. I was in Vegas this morning because I was there all weekend working. And when I was flying out, I saw a lot of Raiders jerseys in the airport, like coming into the game. I was very happy to see that. When I was walking around Vegas, I saw a lot of Steelers jerseys. Like, look, Steelers have a big fan base. They are a well-supported NFL team. And it's like, all right, there's going to be a lot of Steelers fans in Vegas. Allegiant Stadium's going to, have its share. They were loud. They were proud. They made their presence known. Did they affect the game? Maybe. I'm not sure. But they were definitely there. All right. You guys have been going bonkers in the comment section, so I want to take some questions. Galactic Goo. That sounds oddly sexual. RJ, underrated Soto holds him back some way McDickhead held back Carr. Bobby Gallardo. That's Raiders defense always finds a way to not get a turnover. This is back-to-back games where interceptions have bounced off of chests of DBs. 3 straight games. Turnovers have bounced off the chests of DBs. Boogie, that pick six would have given us all the momentum. It would have. I mean, and those are like one of those like, what's the proper term? It's one of those things that gives you kind of theoretical momentum, right? Like momentum is like less tangible. It's like, all right, is momentum like real? If I can't touch it, taste it, feel it, like grab it, put it in my pocket, is it really real? It clearly it is a functional part of football, but it's hard to kind of like put a metric on it. But 6 points, I can definitely put a metric on. For sure. I would have loved those 6 points. Yeah, where is Soto? Defend that crap. Where is Soto? He bounced. He's gonna say it's because I'm giving him shit, but really because he's been putting rose-colored glasses on Josh McDaniels the entire time and the season's falling apart. That's why he bailed. It was a long, dude, me, him, and Rory. in our text chain today. It was vicious. It was brutal. It was a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath. The back and forth between the three of us. And he's watching like all his rose-colored glasses analysis of Josh McDaniels fall apart. And so he's flipping out. He's just like, I'd rather not be here than hear it. And I was gonna play nice. Like I don't want to admit I was right about Josh McDaniels. I don't want to say like, yeah, this Raiders organization has been set back. Josh McDaniels he is who he was in Denver. Like I don't want to say that. Been hearing it all year. Jimmy G is a winner. With Shanahan, he is. That's for sure. But Jimmy is a winner, please. Shanahan, he is. Yeah, where did Soto go? Jimmy G is playing scared. I'm going to disagree. This isn't an all or nothing analysis here. Like you get reality. Jimmy G had multiple plays, 15, 18 plays where he stood in the pocket, took a hit, was under pressure, moved in the pocket, found time. He had multiple plays. And when we were down and it felt like we were out, Jimmy G was still there. Jimmy G was still a gamer. The whole theoretical, he's scared, he's not there, he's not the guy, like that's not a Jimmy G thing. The Jimmy G thing is just like really bad decisions, terrible footwork, and no long ball. That's the Jimmy G problem. Like, guys, watch this. Like, I know we're like, we're not all like X's and O's gurus or like offensive coordinators. And I don't pretend to be either. But watch Jimmy G in the pocket and watch his mechanics when he throws the ball. Watch his feet. Please. If you're going to go back and watch the game or the next game moving forward or 49ers games, whenever, do me a favor and come back later and tell me what you think, right? I'm on Twitter at RJ Clifford MMA. I'm at Instagram, RJ Clifford MMA, or more specifically, come here on Windbags, right? Tell me what you see when you watch Jimmy Garoppolo's feet in the pocket. He never sets them, ever. You're supposed to plant, like it's like a boxer throwing a punch. You want to plant your feet, rotate your hips, and deliver your power. Power comes from the feet, the legs, to ass up. Boom. That's how you get your power, right? When Jimmy Garoppolo throws the ball, his feet aren't planted in a staggered, clean stance where he can rocket it. He like jumps when he throws, or his feet are next to each other where you have no balance. He throws the weirdest ball, which is his feet are bonkers. And it's so weird. He's been in the league for so long. He's had so many good offensive coordinators. He's had so many good quarterback coaches. And yet he just always throws the ball with ballet feet. It's super weird. I don't get it. The only reason I can think of is because he's so afraid of getting hit and getting hurt that he doesn't want to plant his feet. Like when you plant your feet, that's when you get hit and like your ACL gets turned into space dust, right? So he's like, oh, instead of planting my feet and risk getting injured, I'm gonna be twinkle toes and not plant my feet and not be able to get power behind my throw. Like you can't throw a football jumping in the air with power. You have to plant your feet and rotate. It's so weird. He just refuses to set his feet. Boogie, Deion Primetime Sanders would have gone for it. So I'm glad you brought this up, Boogie. I'm glad you brought this up because I was thinking about this yesterday. So I was watching, I was working the UFC fight, and I was watching the Colorado game and watching them getting destroyed by Oregon, right? Deion Sanders at Oregon or at Colorado has already established himself, right? Like he was started 3-0, big upsets, and a team that only won one game last season. Like he's already turned that school around. He's not going to be there long. Someone's going to hire him. And I'm not guaranteeing by any means that he's going to turn the Raiders around. I'm not guaranteeing he's the answer for the Raiders. But what I am saying is that the Raiders need a foundational shakeup. They need a complete change in culture, in strategy, in business, and outlook. They need a complete shakeup from the highest positions, from the ground to the top, from the king to the pawn. And because Mark Davis is never going to sell the team, Mark Davis is not going anywhere. And believe you me, he is the problem. What has been the one consistent issue during the last 15 years of Raider inadequacy? There's only one person that's been there the entire time. Different coaches, different quarterbacks, different coordinators, different presidents, different GMs, different everything, different everything. Only Mark Davis has been the consistent figure during this entire run of Raiders inadequacy. And he's not going anywhere, right? So just like learn to live with that. We need somebody who's going to come in and completely turn the culture on its head to change everything. If we bring a guy in who's just going to kind of like, well, I have some defensive ideas to help, that's not enough. This entire franchise needs to be grabbed by the neck and shaken, turned upside down, all the coins coming out of the pockets, sifting it up and buying something better. If this franchise was a monarchy, the peasants would be coming from the slums and putting the king in, what's that thing where they chop their head off? Like, that's what this franchise needs. That's the point of this franchise. That's where this franchise has gotten. If it were a country in South America, there'd be a regime change. Like, there'd be guerrilla warfare in the streets. Like, that's how bad it's been. That's what this franchise needs. Not a tiny change. Oh, we're going to go, 30% left when everyone thinks we should go 20% right. Like, no, we need a completely foundational change. I'm telling you, like, it's not a small change thing. Guillotine. Thank you, Unholy Roller. That's what we need. That's what this franchise needs. Game-changing, regime-changing moves. But the regime's not going to change. It's Mark Davis. He's not going anywhere. Boogie again. Oh, thank you. Al Davis was the shakeup back then. Raiders needed a new Al Davis of this modern age. I'm with you. It needs a giant shakeup. Francisco Pancho. So far, Raiders' best picks doing nothing. Tyree and Mayer, nothing. Awful. And the longer this goes on, the more I kind of wonder is, are the draft picks that bad? Or are the Raiders, the organization, the coaches, and scheme that bad? Because I always say, like, look, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth saying it, but Patrick Mahomes is on pace to be the best football player in NFL history. It sucks, but it's the reality. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, he's that good. Is it because if the Raiders drafted him, would he be that good? If the Browns drafted him, would he be that good? Or is it because he was drafted by, again, a very stable franchise in the Chiefs, one of the best head coaches ever in Andy Reid, the best tight end ever, who will remain nameless, in Kansas City, and all those things put together helped make him maybe the best quarterback in human history. That's what I'm saying. Chicken and the egg. If we nailed our draft picks, if we got Jalen Carter, if we got Christian Gonzalez, would they be crushing it with us the same way they're crushing it with their teams? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. And we never know. And there's never an answer to that question. Because we've seen so many times players that come to the Raiders, like they were great somewhere else, sucked with the Raiders, left and were good somewhere else. We've seen it too many times. Dutchmaster 710, y'all just want somewhere y'all can come bitch and grieve. Soto is a realist. Y'all just want yes men that agree with how shit the Raiders are. Renfro got 3 targets tonight and tight ends 0 targets. That's not true. There was a pass to Michael Mayer that got intercepted. And Mayer got a catch too. Mayer got a 2-point conversion. There were at least 2 targets to Michael Mayer. One of them good, one of them awful. Theron J. Soto, a fucking girl. RJ, why don't you call him out? I've been doing it too long, man. I've been doing that too long. And also, I don't like doing that because he does that on solo shows when I'm not around, and I'm not going to do that to him. Like, when I'm going to say something to Soto, it's to his face, or preferably on the show. Like, he bounced because he saw things crumbling, And we'll talk about it next show. When we do the podcast, when we do the big show this week, we'll definitely talk about it. Theron J, what did I say? I can't wait for Soto to quit. He can't take criticism. He's a little girl. Cut the dead weight, RJ, so you can honestly. No, Soto's the man. Soto's a really, really good analyst. Soto's a very, very good analyst. He's just very passionate about his football. Like really, like very much so. And you know, a bad sports team brings out the worst in people. Right? I'm never a bigger dick than when the Raiders lose. Dutchmaster 710, Jimmy regressed with McDaniels. He never looked this bad with the Niners. So mathematically, look at the stats, right? Derek Carr's worst statistical season was with Josh McDaniels as head coach. Jimmy Garoppolo's worst statistical season of his career so far, and again, it's only 3 games, in fairness, was with Josh McDaniels. With the Broncos, he ruined not 1 but 2 quarterbacks as head coach. That was Josh McDaniels. It's so weird how Josh McDaniels is like the quarterback whisperer as an offensive coordinator under the Patriots, but as the head coach, he's just ruining dudes. He's just ending careers over and over again. What else do we got? Great breakdown, Andre. Thank you. So Jimmy G's a poor man's Chad Pennington. Noodle arm. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Hard back to the public. Did you guys see Derek Carr? I was on a plane this morning during the first half of the morning games, and the only game that I had available to watch was the Saints and Packers game. And Derek Carr had a really good game and then hurt his shoulder. And I was like, dude, Carr's coming back from that. Like, he's such a durable quarterback. Like, he's not standing out. Like, he may, and it was weird because Derek Carr had a good red zone game. Like, he scored a touchdown in the red zone. And the second time he was in the red zone, he threw a ball right to Olave, bounced off his chest, right? So that wasn't on Carr, it was on the receiver, right? He's supposed to be 2-2 in the red zone. And then once Derek Carr was out, they were up 17-0. Once Derek Carr was out, they lost 18-17 and scored another point. And that's with a phenomenal defense. Like, the DBs of the Saints are maybe the best DBs in football. They're so good. They're so phenomenal. Like, God, I'm so jealous. Boogie, for real, starting to think no matter what coach we get, we're cursed to lose. There might be some reality to that. Like, franchise-wise, culture-wise, that matters. And it might be unfair for us to be like, all right, Josh McDaniels, turn around, do a 180 on a dime of 2 decades of ineptitude. Maybe that's unfair of us. Unholy Raider. Oh, great name. Unholy Raider, Frankie. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Think about how old we'll be when Mahomes retires. Some of us will be older than others. I'll probably be 50-something when Mahomes retires. I turned 40 this year, and he's got another 10 years of football left in him. And the more time moves on, the more the longer quarterback careers will go, because medical technology is just getting better and better. Dude, the stuff they do with stem cells, the stuff they do with HGH, you hear all the time about NBA players going to Germany for a month to unwind, and they come back and miraculously all of their injuries are cured. It's not because they were laying on the beach in France. It's because they're getting doped up with all the good stuff, as they should. This steroids craze of oh, it's bad, it's unfair. It's dude, I want my professional athletes to play as long as possible and be healed as fast as possible and be back on the field or court or mat or cage or ring or whatever as fast as possible. If there's medical technology out there that can make Conor McGregor or Patrick Mahomes or LeBron James play longer, they should be doing it. Everyone wins. Our best athletes get to keep doing stuff. Las Vegas Raiders with Pharaoh NFL. Thank you so much for the super chat. Genuinely, it means a lot. Jimmy G is trash. McDaniels and Ziegler are on the hot seat, I'll say. If the Raiders get a top 5 pick, by the way, at the game today, Steelers fans outnumbered Raiders fans. I was wondering. It sounded like they did. Now, in fairness, because the Steelers were winning and were outplaying the Raiders, they get louder. That's a bummer. That's a bummer we're outnumbered. Home opener primetime. I get it. When it's week 17, we're out of the playoffs and like the Niners are in town or the Chiefs are in town. This again, we talk about it 1,000 times. There's a reason why like it's always going to be the case. Las Vegas is a destination. If you're living in Cleveland, if you're living in Jacksonville, if you're living in Pittsburgh, if you're living in Denver, if you're living in Seattle, if you're living in all these places, and you find out your team is going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, party capital of the country, you'd be like, oh yeah, what's the one away game we want to go to? Raiders. I want to be in Vegas. And also, unfortunately, they're probably going to suck. Let's go somewhere where we can go to a titty bar, play blackjack, and get a win. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And it's not changing anytime soon. However, this isn't week 17. This is week 3. It's the home opener in primetime, and still we shit the bed. Dollar in the swear jar. And still, Raider Nation couldn't show up. And I have myself to blame as much as anybody. I was literally there this morning. Like I flew home I flew home today after working in the UFC last night because I want to be with my wife and kid. But I could have flown them out. We could have had 3 more in silver and black. I can't blame you guys any more than I blame myself. Unholy Roller Raider, Frankie. Merrick is too pretty to be playing safety for us. I can't tell after Jimmy G who's next pretty. Denzel Perryman was pretty pimp, but then after that it was kind of like a blur. I don't know. It's hard to tell. What else? Let's see some other things. Let's see some new people in here. Ed Lanos. Is it safe to say that everything that McNugget touches turns to dog shit? I mean, look, I brought up the example of when Bill Belichick was at the Browns, or when Bill Belichick was at the Giants as defensive coordinator. He was awesome, right? Super Bowl championship defensive coordinator, absolutely brilliant. Went to the Browns, crapped the bed. Went back to being defensive coordinator and went to the Pats. Now, if it weren't for the Tuck rule and the Raiders win that game with a backup quarterback that no one knew about from Michigan named Tom Brady, lost that game, and they didn't find success the next season, he would have been the Josh McDaniels. He would have been the guy that, he's a great defensive coordinator under a great head coach in a great franchise, but he can't do it himself. He can't carry the clipboard. He can't be the man. He can't be a head coach. That would have been the narrative. So we're all hoping that Josh McDaniels is like that, right? The exception to the rule. We're all hoping that Josh McDaniels, crapping the bed in Denver, crapping the bed so far in Las Vegas, can get it together. But if you're saying, give me a fact, let's not guess the future, but tell me the facts. Yes. Everything Josh McDaniels touches, not in New England, goes to crap. The Broncos went to crap. People forget he was the offensive coordinator for the Rams after Denver before he went back to New England, and they were the 32nd offense in football. Now he's with the Raiders, and they took a 11-win playoff team, gave him 6 wins last season, and now we got this. Yes, I'm not saying it's impossible for him to turn things around, but statistically, factually, mathematically, everything he's touched out of New England, it's gone to shit. Swear jar, that's another one. I'm not even keeping track anymore. I have to go back and count this. Las Vegas Raiders with Pharaoh NFL. Thank you for the super chat. Jimmy G is trash. McDaniels is going to go on the hot seat. The Raiders get a top 5 pick. By the way, we already did this one. I just want to give you some extra love. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Theron J, he got Harris back and knocked his ass down. Harris was slow. DK, get up. Merrick has that dog in him. I think, K, this defense is just ass. Yeah, I mean, this defense is ass. It's been ass for 20 years. Awful. Janoy Kresva, Mark Davis is a huge Patriots fan. I mean, look, if you're an NFL owner and you're trying to replicate something for success, I mean, the Patriots aren't a bad place to start. Like, I get it. I get Mark Davis's mindset. And it's not outlandish. Like if you were trying to explain, like if Mark Davis explained to you, like if Mark Davis came on the show right now and explained his mindset, he's like, look, Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, they've been part of a winning franchise, a winning organization, an organization that knows stability, keeping people accountable. Lord knows the Raiders need that. Like we talk about it on this show, we kind of hint at it a lot, but like the depth of the ineptitude of the Raiders' core and culture is hard to understate. Like we all saw in the last 18, 24 months how like the president got fired, CFO got fired, all that drama. Obviously, we know about defensive coordinators and head coaches. It's a revolving door for guys like that. Like it's not stable. Like it's not a well-run corporate. Like if it was a corporation, the chairman of the board and the shareholders would be doing like a hostile takeover. Like it wouldn't like people wouldn't be just like sitting around hoping things go right or making minor changes. You've been losing for 20 years. If this was a Fortune 500 company, the shareholders would be like hostilely taking over. If it was a monarchy, like they'd be putting the king in a guillotine. Like it's that bad for 2 decades. Janoy Kresva, we just want to see progression. Mike McDaniel doing what he did today makes McDaniel's offense look even worse. Yeah, that's all I want is progression. Right? Like I don't need this defense to be a top 5 defense overnight. That doesn't happen. Like ocean liners can't do a 180 in 2 seconds, right? A defense this bad, it takes time to improve. But like you said, I want progression. I want to see minute improvements. I want to see things getting better visibly. I want to see players developing. I want to see a scheme that people are buying into. We don't have a single takeaway in 3 games. Not one. That's abhorrent. That's malpractice. That's so bad. Boogie, people can shove that you had a playoff team bullshit. We've been terrible for 20 years. 2 seasons barely making playoffs in 20 years means nothing. Well, this is where we disagree. And I can't guarantee that keeping Bisaccia would have made us winners. But we finally stumbled on something semi-successful, the Bisaccia team 2 seasons ago. And obviously it's not working. Like the path they went with is not working. Does that guarantee that Bisaccia would have been a winner? No. But all you can do is go on what they've done in the past and hope they can replicate it in the future. And Josh McDaniels, as a head coach, has no track record of anything other than failure. All right, well, that's about it for us. Josh McDaniels, absolutely terrible play calling. Josh Jacobs running his heart out, but just can't catch a break. The Raiders are where struggling quarterbacks go for a bounce back game, like Kenny Pickett did. Jimmy G leads the league in interceptions. He's supposed to be Mr. Stability, Mr. No Mistakes. Not the case at all. We went 2 games with no sacks, gave up 4 today. That's just kind of how the Steelers roll. Even though the Steelers have one of the best pass rushes in football and one of the worst run defenses in football. So, of course, we threw the ball 44 times and only ran the ball 19. Naturally, right? Like, why would you try to run the ball against the worst run defense in football? why would you want to like throw the ball against the best pass rusher in football with a quarterback that just loves to get injured every single day, every single time he's out there? God bless Davante Adams. God bless Maxx Crosby. God bless Divine Diablo, who has improved so much despite all these problems. But it was a rough one today, Raider Nation. It was a rough one in prime time. We got embarrassed, bent over, and smacked. We'll continue to keep you abreast of everything that changes. I can't wait to watch the post-game presser for the players involved, coaches involved specifically. We'll have our podcast this week as well. No UFC this weekend, so I'm not on the road, which means we'll be able to do a lot of new stuff. So keep an eye on YouTube for all the things that we're doing. And I promise you, Soto isn't dead. He's around here somewhere. But until then, knock on wood if you're with me.